coming months.
For Adams, what happens in Philadelphia will be crucial. He must convince the other colonies to back Massachusetts with deeds as well as words. Without their active support, his colony will be left to face England's military might alone. On September 5th, 1774, 56 delegates to the First Continental Congress gather at Carpenter's Hall. They are the leaders of the colonies, the political bosses, the merchants, the wealthy landowners. From Virginia come lawyer Patrick Henry and planter George Washington. From Massachusetts, political activist and former brewer Samuel Adams, John Adams' cousin. And merchant John Hancock, one of the richest men in America.
The initial confrontation of these people was like seeing foreigners. They spoke the same language, or a reasonable facsimile of the same language, but they were very different people. There was no sense, I think, of unity against the British as yet. I think they saw themselves as Englishmen, and for the most part, people from Massachusetts and people from Virginia were more in touch with people in London than they were with each other.
It is not in any way certain how the other colonies will respond to the British occupation of Boston. There is the strong suspicion among some of the delegates that the leaders of Massachusetts are hotheads and troublemakers.
I am discovering that this continent is a vast, unwieldy machine. We are 13 colonies, strangers, largely unacquainted with each other, now rushing together in one great mass. It's not surprising that we are jealous of each other's designs, fearful, timid, skittish.
The Congress debates for 2 months. The delegates agree to fully support Massachusetts. They also pass a resolution that the colonies should arm and prepare to defend themselves, if necessary, against any future British aggression. They send a petition to the king, affirming their loyalty and asking for the end of military rule in Boston.
What happens in 1774 is that 13 clocks suddenly begin to strike as one. That's what John Adams said. That's the most important fact of the First Continental Congress. Up to 1774, you have 13 different movements, very different, independent, but we won't even call them independence movements, we'll call them protest movements to British authority. But in 1774, 13 different countries, that's the way they thought of themselves, suddenly come together and begin to speak, or attempt to speak, with one voice.
Before parting for what they believe will be the last time, the delegates gather at the city tavern for a final dinner and a toast of loyalty to England.
To His Majesty King George, may the sword of the parent never be stained by the blood of his children.
London, February 1775. Parliament has just received word of Congress's resolution that Americans should arm themselves. They do not see this as a gesture of loyalty. A report is sent to King George.
If the rabble in Boston is committed to open rebellion, then the king's honor and the safety of the empire require that force be met with force. They are a disorganized mob which cannot present a very great opposition to our regular troops. Perhaps it is better to bring on a small conflict now rather than later, when a rebellious spirit has had a chance to ripen. Proper, very proper.
The Continental Congress was regarded as an illegitimate body, a body that should not be negotiated with. There is a bitterness in Britain, a bitterness about being, in their eyes, let down. And again, we've got to remember, we're talking about 1775, 12 years before. As far as the British were concerned, they'd been at war with France, a war which, as far as they were concerned, and they were right, is a war that had developed because of North America. there is this great sense that they are being betrayed. They don't think they're taking part in some abstract constitutional debate. They see this as a crucial betrayal. They see this as a rebellion within the family. Indeed, an interesting point there, a lot of the British literature about the war is of a son who is rebelling against his father.